All right, good afternoon to you. I'm Fox 26 meteorologist Ramisha Shea. It is time to get an update on what is brewing, what's happening in the tropics, and of course, an update on our crazy local weather. We may not have a hurricane headed towards the Houston area, but there's always some action going on, it seems, as of late. And we've got a weather pattern basically that will likely dump a lot of rain over the area for the rest of the week. Good news though, at least it's not coming from a hurricane or a tropical storm. We've already had 3 named systems so far this season. We're only about 2 months in, and we haven't even gotten to what is typically the busiest and most active portion of hurricane season, which is August and September. But we've already had Alberto, Beryl, of course, which was a hurricane that gave us a direct hit, over a foot of rain and a ton of wind. And of course, we did briefly have Chris, which did make landfall in parts of Mexico. So things are quiet across the Atlantic basin now. We are patiently waiting to see what's going to happen next. I think for the next week or so, we don't have to worry about Debbie, but as we get into August, we could be using Debbie, Ernesto, Francine, and Gordon. Those are the next names on the list. Still very warm sea surface temps, very warm water temps out in the Caribbean, the Gulf, the western portion of the Atlantic, still showing 80s. So of course, when you see water that warm, you think, yes, we will probably have a lot of tropical systems. However, we still have that Saharan dust coming off the coast of Africa, helping us out. It is rolled across much of the Atlantic. It will be getting thicker over the Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico, and that brings in a lot of dry air, which is sinking air. You really need that air to rise to form those showers and storms that could eventually turn into an area of low pressure that could turn into a tropical storm or a hurricane. So it's difficult to get that in this kind of environment. So the Saharan dust is our friend, and I think it sticks around for at least another week before we start to see it kind of start to clear out a little bit as we get into August. And that is when we are concerned that things could get a little crazy on us. But at least for now, National Hurricane Center saying no tropical cyclone activity expected at least for the next 7 days across the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico. So we can smile and celebrate that win because we need a break. Many of you, I'm sure, are still cleaning up from the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl, and that's been 2 weeks ago. So thank goodness we are getting a break. As we check out the Atlantic Ocean, still monitoring a couple of little waves or disturbances out here, some areas of disorganized showers and storms rolling to the west, but they're encountering that Saharan dust and not really able to get going too much at this point. Farther west, over into the Caribbean Sea, there are some areas of showers and storms, but nothing too concerning at this point. And of course, we got all of that moisture over the Houston area in southeast Texas right now and over the Gulf. We are getting the heavy downpours, but we're not expecting it to organize into any sort of tropical system. However, as we jump over Mexico and Central America into the Eastern Pacific, that's where we could run into a few problems. We're monitoring not 1, but 2 systems here that could pose some problems or some issues over the next 2 to 7 days. Still a low chance, but slightly better than yesterday for this system. This system is about a couple hundred miles to the south-southwest of Manzanillo, Mexico, and it has about a low 30% chance to develop into a tropical depression, tropical storm, or hurricane within the next 2 days and also within the next 7 days. Movement is to the west-northwest, so it generally would be moving away from the Mexican coast, so I'm not too concerned about huge impacts. However, we will be watching it closely. It is moving away from the U.S. though, so that is some good news. This other system is a little bit farther out into the East Pacific. This one, an even lower shot for development into a tropical system. A very low 10% chance over the next 2 days and a low 20% chance it could turn into a tropical depression or storm over the next 7 days. So it will continue its trek to the west-northwest, moving farther away from Mexico, Central America, and the U.S. But of course, we will continue to monitor it. But overall, we're looking good, at least likely for the rest of July. But I am still concerned that when we get into August and September, we will start to see some of those systems organize, and we could have more named storms that could turn into hurricanes. Of course, the busiest portion of hurricane season, typically the second half of August all of September, even into early October. And we've got to get all the way into the end of November before we can say we're clear for this season. So we certainly have a lot to watch. Of course, those forecasts for the 2024 hurricane season calling for an unusually high number of systems. So we will keep you updated day by day.